Thanks for joining me in this video. So if you want to win organic AI optimization, there are two arenas that you need to master. The first one is going to be your off-page SEO, also known as your digital PR or your digital presence off of your website. The second arena is optimizing your website specifically for AI retrievability and AI rankings. I have previous videos speaking about this, but in this video, I'll walk you through my process, including a tool that I built based on a recent GEO study. I'm Caleb Turner. Let's get into it. So here on the screen, you see the workflow that turns AI search optimization into a measurable, repeatable process. Right? So the first step, as you see it, when I speak about AI optimization, in this case, I'm talking about on your website. I'm not speaking about, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the off-page digital presence, which is the other primary factor. So you're going to generate the fan out on the queries that are most important to you, your money queries, your bottom of funnel, most important queries. And the way you do that is you're going to take the keywords that are most important to you. You're going to run the query fan out on those keywords. I explained what that is and how it's done in previous videos. And you run the query fan outs, and then you take the queries after you fan them out. You choose, right, from all of those different queries, which queries are most important to you. Bottom of funnel, right, highest intent. You're going to choose those queries. Then you're going to grab whichever pages on competitor sites that are currently doing the best for those particular queries. So let's say ranking on Google, for example, if that's what you want to do, you want to show up on Google, which competitors are doing the best for those queries. There are other tools that will show which competitors are doing the best for those queries in different AI platforms like ChatGPT, for example, right? But let's say your primary aim is to rank on Google. Then you'll take those that are ranking best on Google, right? That's a good starting point. And so then what you'll do, and I use Screaming Frog for this portion, is you'll take those competitor URLs, place them in Screaming Frog's list mode alongside your URL. So if you already have a live page that you want to optimize, then you'll place that particular URL in list mode along with the competitor URLs. And the aim, the idea is you want to see which URLs are currently most optimized, most optimal based on semantic meaning for these particular queries that you want to show up for. And you can go query by query individually. You can run the same process. Because what Screaming Frog is going to do is it's going to vectorize the query and then measure cosine similarity, again, based on that query for each of these respective URLs. And now after that's done, you can see which URL is most relevant semantically. The reason why that's super important is because that's what AI search engines are looking at. One of the things that they're looking at when they're pulling documents or pulling chunks of text for particular queries is how semantically relevant is this particular document or this particular chunk of text, right? So that's why you want your page to be as semantically optimized as possible. And then if your URL is less optimized than your competitors, right? If it has a lower cosine similarity for the query than your competitor URLs, then obviously you'll want to go in and re-optimize your particular page, right? The content on your page, and you want to do it at the chunk level. And again, I built a meta optimizer, which I call Chunk Re-Ranker, particularly for GPT. And we can use that tool if you work with us, and we will go in and optimize the content on your particular page so that it's more retrievable and that it's more likely to rank higher in AI engines. Ranking higher meaning being the most preferred. And the reason why it's important to optimize at the chunk level is because that's what AI engines are pulling. They're pulling chunks of text. That's what they're retrieving. Metahan ran a study where he proved that Google's discovery engine retrieves about 375 words of text at a time. This is just a quick example, so I won't spend too much time on this. I've also showed this before in previous videos. This is a tool that runs the query fan out, right? Built by Mike King. And it's built based on the patents for Google AI mode. So this is specifically relevant for Gemini, meaning you want to show up in Google, you want to show up in Gemini, right? You want to show up in Google's AI mode. So you'll need to generate an API key first. Eventually you will have to pay for this. So you enter your API key. You can do bulk queries. So let's say bulk keywords you can enter, or single. I'm just going to enter single. And let's just say best, I don't know, SEO LA agency, right? And then you're going to run it for either AI overviews, which is simple, or AI mode, which is more complex. And then you're going to run the fan out. Now it's going to process the queries, and then it's going to show the queries and their different intents, etc. for this particular keyword, right? It's going to give us a list of relevant queries. Then once I get this list, as I explained, I want to take the ones that are most relevant to me, most important for me, most bottom of funnel that I want to show up for, and then I'll paste those exact queries into Screaming Frog when I run the analysis, as I'm about to show you here in a moment. So this is going to take maybe another minute or so to run, maybe a few more seconds, and then I'll take some of those queries, again, using this as an example, and place it into Screaming Frog. So here you see all of the different queries, right? Their type, the user's intent, find reputable and highly reviewed agencies, understand the budget required, etc. The reasoning behind the query, all of that, right? So I just want to take the ones that are most important to me, not necessarily all of them, and then go and run the process that I mentioned in a tool like Screaming Frog. All right, guys, I'm here in Screaming Frog, and you have to do a little bit of setup before you get to this point. But I go to mode and I go to list mode, and then I want to upload the particular URLs that are competing against the URL, the web page that I want to have ranked, that I want to have show up for my money terms in the searches, right? So you see some different competitor URLs, and you see the URL for SEO Rank Media, right? So what I'll do is go ahead and crawl, and it'll take a few seconds and crawl those particular URLs. And then once that's done, I just go over here to semantic search, right? And you can see that all the URLs were crawled, by the way. Here it says all 4, right? So all of them were crawled. Once that's done, I'll go over here into semantic search and type in the query that I want to show up for. So let's say it's best SEO agency Los Angeles, right? Go ahead and run that, and it showed that only 2 of the URLs are actually semantically relevant for that query, and one of them is, of course, SEO Rank Media. Now here, it's measuring the cosine similarity on a scale of 0.0 to 1. So I got a 0.6, the competitor got a 0.5 for this particular query. And by the way, I forgot to mention that you have options here. So one is for Gemini. So this is more so related to Google, obviously. And in the case of using the tool that I just showed you for the query fan out, it might make more sense to use the Gemini, because that tool is more related to Gemini. But I chose OpenAI because I'm saying, hey, I want to show up in ChatGPT, right? So I chose OpenAI, and again, Screaming Frog vectorized the query and produced a cosine similarity score, meaning my particular web page is more relevant semantically for this particular query. So now, hypothetically speaking, let's say this was my URL, and I saw that my competitor outscored me in cosine similarity for the query that I want to show up for. What I could do is go into my meta optimizer, take the content from my URL, from my web page, place it into the meta optimizer in chunks, and the meta optimizer will re-optimize the content for me, show me the best options to choose. Then I'll place that into my content, and now my content will be more optimized. And so after I've re-optimized the content, I can go back here into Screaming Frog, run this analysis again, and I'll see my score increased, right? And I'll do that until my score is higher than the scores of my competitors. Now, for those who may be wondering, well, how can I scale this? You know, it sounds good, but I want to do this at scale. I don't have time to go 2-3 competitors at a time and whatnot. The way you do it at scale is in list mode and Screaming Frog. You can place multiple competitor URLs for any particular query. And you can also run it on a schedule. And you can also run it in the cloud and spin up multiple instances at once. So here you go into the Meta Optimizer, and I have another tool that I use to format the content this way. But essentially, this is the query that we want to show up for. This is the audience, right? A business owner researching and comparing LA SEO agencies. And here are the different chunks of text. Now, one chunk is going to be our chunk from our target website, right? From our target URL. And it's going to be compared to competitor chunks of text that are on competitor URLs. And importantly, as I said, I have another tool that I run that does this. It pulls the competitor URLs that are ranking best already for the particular question and query, and it pulls the chunks of text from those particular URLs that are most relevant for the query. All right. So you have our chunk and you have the competitor chunks. Now, essentially, you can pull these chunks from anywhere. And as long as you have it formatted properly and you place it into our Meta Optimizer, it'll run the process the same way. And I explained this process in a previous video. So now what it's going to do is it's going to rank these chunks of text and show which ones are most optimized for this query. It's going to rank them in sequential order from most to least optimized for this particular query. So I'll go ahead and run the search and it'll take a few seconds. Once it's done, it's going to, as I said, rank the chunks of text for those that are most to least optimized, as it says here. Chunk 1 is the most optimized. Chunk 2 is the second most optimized. Chunk 5 is the third most optimized, etc. And so now that we have the most optimized chunk of text from all of our options, it's going to give us 2 more options based on that chunk of text, which is to say it's going to rewrite that chunk of text into 2 other versions. All right. And that way we can choose out of those 3 versions, which is the best. So it says here, chunk 1 is the most optimized, as we already know. So here is one version of chunk 1, an answer block. Here is another version of chunk 1, a scannable version, right? Easy for AI to understand and to digest. And so now we can choose from the scannable version, from the answer block, or from the original chunk of text. And it's going to tell us from those 3 versions which is the most optimized for AI retrievability and ranking. And as we would probably guess, it's the scannable version. So that's the process. And now you have a process that's measurable, that's repeatable for optimizing your website's content for AI retrievability and rankings. If you yourself have a business or a website and you want to improve your retrievability, your visibility, your rankings in AI search, don't hesitate to go into the description box, reach out to me directly. I can run your website through a free AI checklist and show you what needs to be improved. You can go in and improve it yourself or have our team at SEO Rank Media do it for you. All right, take care.